I am your host of Across Generations, Tiffany D. Cross, and this is the only place where you will hear 3 different perspectives from 3 distinct generations of Black women, and I'm so thrilled to invite you to this conversation. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Across Generations, and I'm super, super excited to talk about this. No matter where you stand on this issue, you're going to want to tune in. I'm just going to say it. I have no white friends. Now, I have white people who I know and who I've shared sporadic time with, but in the true nature of the word friendship, like who I'm calling my girl, zilch. Now, I always maintain intellectual curiosity, of course, about my fellow countrymen. So I've made it my business to work within and across communities of color, everyone from the Asian American Pacific Islander community, the indigenous, the Latino community, Muslims, etc. But pretty much all of my friends, my crew, they're Black. But I do notice with a lot of younger people, there's a lot more intermingling. And I find it curious because I remember after the election of President Obama, a lot of culturally incompetent people in the media began to coin the phrase post-racial. What the hell does that even mean? But the idiocy of that saying aside, I do think younger people don't carry the same weight that older generations might when it comes to the trauma of racism that extends to so many parts of our social engagement. And I think some of that represents progress. But at the same time, I do think losing our intra-community sanctity is something that I'd like to protect. So am I out of touch with the way the country is going, or do I have an understanding that most of these divides will almost always inevitably surface? So let's get into this conversation. I want to bring in my fellow guests. We have Carla Hall, who is turning 60 this year. She's a professional chef, a television host from the DMV, and she's currently the host of Chasing Flavor on Max. You may have seen her as a judge on Bravo's Top Chef or The Chew, and she's fabulous and has all the things to say, so you'll want to hear from her. On the other side, our younger panelist joining us is Christina Brown. She's a 28-year-old digital content creator and writer from Long Beach, California. She currently resides in New York City, and on her platform, she discusses intersectionality and social issues within the Black community. So surely we have a lot to talk about. Carla, I'm going to start with you.
Why? I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
I think surprisingly, this is an area where you and I might be on opposite sides of this divide. I don't have, and look, people use that term friend very loosely. So yes, I have white people who say, oh yeah, Tiffany and I are friends. But I'm talking about like my sister, like people who I'm calling to say, girl, let me tell you what this guy did. Or I'm calling to say, come help me bury the body. Like those are all people who look like me. I don't have friendships outside, in the true meaning of the word friendships. I don't have friendships outside the community. You do, I think.
I do. I mean, I have friends in every walk of life. I do. I have white friends. I have a lot of Black friends. I mean, I grew up in a Black community, went to an all-Black school, lived in an all-Black. Well, no, even grade school. I mean, I was in a Black neighborhood, went to an all-Black Catholic school. I never went to school with white people until high school. Wow. And then I went to Howard. I went to an HBCU. So
everywhere across the country, people watching this are going HU. So I will say I said it for you.
Yes. But I think I'm fluid in that because I allow people to be who they are. Now that doesn't mean that I don't hold some biases, because I know I do, because that's just being human. But I do have a host of friends.
And friends in the true sense of the word friends.
Like my best friend at 13 was white.
Okay. My best friend at 13. Okay, I had a white best friend at some point in life too. I mean, like people who you're talking to today.
No, I mean, yes, people I talk to today. I consider my assistant of 10 years, who is white, a friend. I will call her.
Your assistant works for you.
I know, but she worked. But even if she didn't work for me, even if she did not work for me, I like her. I call her just to chat, just to tell her, girl, let me tell you what happened today.
Yeah.
I like her. I employ people I want to be around. I don't have people who work with me that I don't like.
Okay. I've had white employees.
But I don't say, I mean, she's a partner. I don't
I know what you
consider her,
mean.
yeah.
Yeah. Outside of people who you pay and outside of your 13-year-old self, do you have white friends who you intermingle with in an intimate way?
Why are you trying to break down my argument?
because everybody does that. Like, the nuanced point is, like, yeah,
Look.
again, like I say, there are definitely white people who say, yeah, we're friends. But the truth is, like, I'm not inviting you to the cookout. And I mean that in the literal and also the abstract sense.
Yeah, I mean, there are people I would invite to the cookout. Absolutely.
Okay, well.
I would invite her to the cookout.
Okay, we're going to
I see. I hear you over there, Christina.
We coming back to that. I'm turning to you right now. Do you have white friends?
No.
Why?
They don't serve me, right? They just...
Well, are friendships supposed to serve you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like I find friendships to be important in my community. Like, I'm building community, and that's friendships, that's platonic, romantic, familial, sexual, whatever the relationship is.
Mm-hmm.
I need people that I feel like kind of like we can feed into each other, like we can pour into each other. And I actually had the opposite. I grew up in a really diverse, Long Beach is super diverse. I mean, you've got white people, Samoan people, Asian people, Black people, white people. So I went to school having friends of like multiple different races and cultures until I went to a PWI for college. And that's when it was like.
So at a predominantly white institution, your idea and ideology around friendship changed.
I was friends. It was my proximity. It was like, if I'm gonna have community there, I'm gonna have to befriend these white people. And for a minute, it was cool. And then Trump got elected 2016, my senior year, and that shifted. It was already shifting a little bit because I became the only Black person in the classroom, and like hearing weird fetishizing comments.
Like what?
Oh my God, I've never been with a Black girl, right? And the like, oh my God, you don't, your hair doesn't feel dirty when you don't wash it every day, and like stuff, just comments like that. And I was like, what are they talking about? Like, these people have not been around Black people. And then Trump got elected, and it was like, oh my God, you voted for Trump, you voted for Trump, and from that point, it shifted my like, I don't know if I could can I trust you? Because how is it that you've been in community with me for 3 years? And then and you hear what this person is saying about my community, right? And then I find out after he wins, you was with him the whole time.
So what would you say to Black people who voted for Trump?
I'm not friends with them either.
Are you sure?
If I know that they are, if I know that they are, true,
yeah.
Right? Because the families too, you'd be like, but if I know that they are, nah. This goes into my Black friends too. I'm not friends with all Black people. But
yeah,
a whole other...
I know that there are people who, appear on screen and Blacks for Trump.
Yeah.
I think those people are holograms. I don't personally know anybody.
I agree, but I'm just saying. I mean, it never fails when you're talking to your Black friends or anybody really. Like, they were Trump. You're like, what? I mean, and you kind of unfriend that person. You kind of distance yourself from that person because so much of your being and who you are just cannot relate, and you relate to your friends. And so it becomes a thing of, we are really different. Fundamentally, we're different.
I mean, I can have friendships where there is a different ideology.
Yeah.
I can have friendships where there is a different ideology that is rooted in the dehumanization of my people and my community.
Right.
So when you say you have white friends who you would bring to the cookout, to me, the cookout is a sacred space, metaphorically and also literally. If you're bringing white friends to the cookout, I need a heads up. Do you feel like when you're going into predominantly Black spaces, do you feel like you have to say, hey, just FYI, I have some white folks with me?
And I would ask you, do you know me? Do you trust me? Do you think that I would bring somebody that I didn't think would fit into this situation?
Well, that sounds like you're not giving me a heads up. So then I'm having a question because I need a heads up. Yeah. I do. Like, you have to tell. I don't trust. Like, so to me, there is we're the three of us are sitting here talking, right? We're in community with each other, and we arrive at this space with a basic commonality, a basic understanding. You add one white woman to this dynamic, and the entire conversation changes. The spirit of the conversation changes. The mood in the room changes.
Comfortability.
Right. Exactly. And you adjust. adjust. And so when people, because I have friends, I used to give them a hard time that, with some guys who were like dating white women and they would bring them around. It's like, well, now I got to watch my mouth. We on the spades table. You know what we say on the spades table.
I know.
I got to
Jen.
watch what I say. It's uncomfortable. Like, that is the sanctity of my community. The best way I can say it, because it's not like I'm saying, something ugly about white people, but the best way I can say it is if a white person is at their family dinner, okay, and everybody at that was obviously white, white mama, white daddy, white sister, white brother, white kids, everything, and somebody says, Mom, you get on my nerves. You always putting raisin in the potato salad. That's your right to say that. It's your family. Now, if I say, as the outsider, your mom get on my nerves. She always putting raisin in the potato salad. Whoa. Time out, Slim. Yeah. Like, you way out of pocket. You don't get to do that.
Right.
And I think sometimes there is this misrepresentation from white people who have been invited by Carla.
My God.
Oh, I got to invite to the cookout.
I mean,
they feel like they overstep.
Well, first of all, I would tell you, if I'm bringing anybody, I would tell you.
But you say, I'm bringing Susan. Do you say, okay, but just so you know, Susan White, she real cool. That's my girl, but she white.
I honestly wouldn't have thought to tell you that.
I'm going to tell you, when you show up with Susan, I'm giving one of those smiles that you will understand and Susan won't. I'm like, hey,
okay, but that said, well, let me just say, but that said, I know you. Okay, if I know you too, then I would probably tell you, because I know you. Now that I know you, and you said that, I'm like, girl, I wouldn't bring any white people. But but I'm just saying, you have to trust me that I'm bringing somebody that you can still speak freely. But now what you all are saying is, because their skin is white, you wouldn't trust that you can speak freely, because it changes the dynamic.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a matter that I don't feel I can speak freely. I feel it's out of pocket. Like, there are things
their presence is out of pocket.
Or to say things, not their presence out of, but to say things, like a conversation I would have with just us is very different with someone outside of the community. And that is something that's very important to me. Now, if I know I'm going into an environment in mixed company, the conversation is different. Like, they're just things that are different. The example I always give, y'all hear it a lot on this podcast, but the example I always give, if I were to say to y'all right now, God is good, you say,
God is good all the time. All the time.
All the time.
Good,
all the time.
God is good.
I'm questioning both y'all black card.
All the time, God is good.
I know,
you can question my black card.
Did you say God is good all the time? Did you say God is good all the time? I don't know if maybe you did say the all time after. Okay,
yes,
but anyway.
Yes. Okay.
That's all the time. But what else are we supposed to be saying?
I might have to edit that out for y'all. But yes, that is the thing.
Because you didn't say the all the time part.
Yes.
We said all the time.
But that's what I'm saying. That's the natural call and response for black folks. Yeah. That is something that is specific to our community. There is something about that we know that is inherently true to us. I think there are so many things like that. There's an understanding of things. It's like, I understand that. Like,
it's a shorthand. There's a shorthand to speaking, and you don't want to have to.
Safety is the most important.
Well, there's
thing.
safety. There's a shorthand, and admittedly, sometimes I just don't want to use as many words. But I feel like that with women, that sometimes with men, I can need to use too many words. I'm like, I don't want to use all those words. Yeah. I want to be able to talk to you in 5 words and you know that you heard 50.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think that exists with us in a different way than it does with other people. When other people are around, there are all these adjustments and everybody's a little tighter. Everybody's a little clenched. You know,
you're not sure because you're not sure if you can. It's kind of like you're testing the waters. Like, if I say a certain thing or do this, are you going to overstep? Are you going to feel too comfortable? Am I going to have to explain myself?
Or who are you?
Who are you?
What do you represent? Because it's a lot of work to go through when I don't feel like it. Like, now this feels like work. Now it feels like I'm at the office.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Now it's the microaggression. Now I have to wonder,
it feels like when I'm home, I want to be able to rest. There's so much outside of the world where I feel like I can't rest.
Yeah.
I'm on as a black woman all the time. It's like, I want to be able to sit and rest and not explain my reality or not explain. And to the point about like men, sometimes like I don't want to do it. Like, I feel like it's always questioned or you say something that you might not think is a microaggressive, but it is. And now I kind of got to educate you a little bit. And you might have meant well. Yeah. I don't think all white people don't mean well. I think a lot of them don't. But
Or they're indifferent. Like there's just an
Yeah.
indifference. Like it's interesting that your ideology shifted when Trump was elected. I used to host a show on MSNBC. There were people all throughout that building who don't look like us, who I'm looking at this play out. I know exactly what it is because I've seen it before.
Mhm.
The world wants to say this was the first time we had a white supremacist in the White House. Bullshit. Like we have had
Yeah.
several.
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
we can name more people who weren't white supremacists. One. And
Mhm.
before we
But he
could
just
name,
outed himself. That's fine. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
He
No
was
one else
saying,
outed him.
right,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right.
And it's not about
Um,
party. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I
Yes.
agree. Listen, I completely agree. I think when that happened, there were so many people around me who were making such efforts to understand folks. And so a lot of the white people would talk about, well, my uncle voted for Trump and he's, not a bad person. And my grandmother is like the sweetest person and she loves Trump and she voted for him and she's not a bad person. And I'm thinking, actually, both those people are shitty people.
Terrible.
And I'm sorry to be the one to tell you, but they are voting for someone whose interest lies in the in not seeing the humanity of my people. Their interests lie in preserving a power structure that serves you and denies me. But you are so focused on seeing their humanity, you overlook the trauma of what their interest has done to my people for decades
And
or
continuing to do.
centuries, and continues to do. So when somebody comes in my presence to the sanctity and the proverbial cookout, and now I got a question where you stand, how you feel, it's too much effort for me. I make that effort in too many other areas of life. I want to preserve the space where I can relax, be free, slam a card down on the spades table and say whatever I want to after that without somebody else feeling like they have license to participate in a conversation where they really have no place.
I can understand that. I think, though, if I am bringing someone to the cookout because I, too, want to feel that same freedom and sanctity, then it is somebody that I have already been myself around, and I am not going to hold back. But that is also my personality.
Yeah.
I mean, even working for the Chew, I was the only Black person, and then I was like, why don't we have more Black producers?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm in the middle of the set. So do we have more Black producers? They brought a Black girl in. I'm like, oh my God, we have a Black producer.
Yeah.
I am the one Black person shouting. I don't pull back and not say what I am thinking because my thought is you can't unhear what I'm saying to you.
Yeah.
I'm also the Black person who kind of wants to import my Black ass somewhere else.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to go to Iowa. I want to go to other places.
Yeah.
You think you know Black people? You may not know Black people.
Yeah.
But the thing is, when you know someone, it's just like when you see somebody who, somebody in the newspaper and they've been shooting up people and all this stuff. And the mom was like, but he's such a nice boy. Because that story that you read in the newspaper is 2% of what you know about that person. And you take it for 100%. Whereas the people who know them, that story is 2% because they know him so much more.
Yeah.
So of course the people are going to say, oh, she's really a nice person because she is to them.
Yeah.
It doesn't make that person not nice. Two things can be true at the same time. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and I want to be clear. I'm never shy about speaking up for something. I don't water myself down. I ain't for everybody. You know, like I got a whole testimony. Google me. I got a whole testimony. I ain't never been shy about standing up or holding the line for my community. I just don't want to do that in my social spaces.
Yeah.
Like, again, that's why I say it feels like work. I think it's interesting about you, Christina, is you lived outside the U.S.
I have, yeah.
Where were you?
France.
Why were you in France?
First time study abroad, second time teaching English for a year, and then my grad school program.
Okay. And you had friends outside of your...
I did.
Yeah. How was that?
I lived in multiple different cities. So the first two were not a lot of Black people. Paris has there's a lot of people in the African diaspora in Paris. That was, loved it. But in the north, oh my God, it was like 30,000 people. I was the only Black person. So, and I was going to ask this question earlier about like, if you had to choose your community, would you actively choose white people? Because in that scenario, it was 2017, 2018. Again, I'm the only or couple, you can count on a hand, the Black people in this town. I need community, right? So I'm not going to not have community. And I found it, and I really enjoy these people, right? Like I have fond memories of them. We talked, like we connected, and they hold a very special place in my heart for that time period. But it was also during that time where just I realized that I want to be able to come home and relax, because why am I having a conversation with you why you can't say the word nigga?
Mm-hmm.
And you're using the example, oh, well, I'm not American. I don't know. You do know. Come on. And like, I had a conversation with one white French man, and we're talking about this. And he was like, oh, not now, right? Like, I don't want to have this conversation. I was like, oh, is this conversation too much for you? Is it too difficult? No. He's like, yeah, it's just so tiring. And I'm like, you're tired of the conversation. This is my life. I don't know if I can I don't know if I can date a white person. I don't know if I could have you in my close circle if you're tired of the conversation. Because I'm always going to have the conversation.
Yeah.
Right.
So it just became like, it was in necessity, right? But as I get back in communities where it's majority of Black people, I find myself, and with BLM, I just find myself feeling more comfortable with Black people. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I think that's right. That I understand that.
Yeah.
You know, there's been a lot of people. I remember when Friends was on there. This was probably before you were born. When you were little.
Oh my God.
When Friends was around. Yeah. Well, a little earlier than 95, but yeah. But people were mad. You remember this, Carla?
Yep.
People were big mad because ain't no Black friend on Friends. Yes.
And it ripped off Living Single, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Right.
Yes,
I've heard.
Yes.
The drama.
And Quincy Brunson has spoken out about this, and like, why aren't there any Black friends on Friends? I have to say, I might be the only person who wasn't mad, because I don't know a Black person who would hang out with those folks.
Right, I wasn't mad.
It would feel forced.
I mean,
to me.
exactly. I
Yeah.
mean, why do you want to interject yourself for quote unquote equality when you knew you wouldn't be in that situation?
Yeah.
I don't think that I've ever been in a friend situation where I'm the only Black person ever. I've never.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, how do you feel about, like, you're talking about where you are that one, like the token Black friend, like, and you're there by yourself with nobody to make a face to when somebody says something crazy.
Yeah, but but that makes me think of, even when, I don't know if I've been the only one, but maybe I've been like one of two in a group. There's a certain type of, even amongst the friend group, where it's like we're all friends. The two Black people, I feel like, got a secret friendship within that friend group.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
Anyway, so it's like
Always.
there's a tier. There's a tier of like,
Yeah. There is a tier and there is a tier.
Look,
like, all the time.
Like, you're
I
not
remember
like, you think
yeah.
it's very, you think I'm your best friend,
right?
But maybe in the friend group, she's my best friend,
right?
You know,
right.
you're my friend, but like, you don't even, we click in a way that you'll never fully be able to click with me.
But what are you about to say?
Sorry.
Well,
yeah.
I went to a predominantly white middle school and high school in Marietta, Georgia, and I remember this guy who I thought was my friend. I still remember his name. I won't say it. But he was a jovial, everybody liked him, white guy, chubby guy, but like kind of a popular kid in school. He was just, known for being funny. And we used to always joke around with each other. And I remember one day he told me, he's like, Tiffany, you are so beautiful for a Black girl. And he genuinely thought, this was in the early 90s, he genuinely thought he was giving me a compliment. And I was mortified. I was like, well, that felt short of a compliment. But he just had no clue. I'm not interested in being your token, your teacher, any of it. I feel like I am 45 years old. I have spent enough of my time. I used to do Fox News in the day. I used to go and debate people. I have earned the rights to live a comfortable and safe space. And I think there has been because there's a historical context here, Carla, that you well know, and that I well remember. I was weaned on that historical context. And I think, even, not to get too policy oriented, but I'm not even a fan of Brown v. Board. I don't think that integrating our school systems served us. We wanted separate but equal.
My grandma says
and
that.
I mean, imagine.
My grandma says that.
And those times in the 50s, taking the innocent mind of a Black child and putting it in the hands of a white woman who did not see you as human, who gave you subhuman treatment, and what that did for a generation of Black folks and their aspirations, their dreams, how they viewed themselves. So much of how we view ourselves is caught up in how they view us. And so I just don't choose to do that socially. Socially, I want to exhale. So when I'm having a cookout and Carla shows up with Sally, like, what's the big deal, guys? No, she can play
Barbara.
spades. I'm looking at you like, who
She can
taught
play
this chick how to play spades?
That'd be nuts.
And why is she at the
Because not even
cookout?
all black people know how to play spades. That would be
I-
crazy.
Well,
Ooh, I
those
would be
folks
so
aren't
mad.
invited to the cookout either.
I know. My husband
Okay, but
can't
we
play
don't-
spades.
we
I'm like,
don't-
dude, what's up?
Because
Where'd
we
you
don't
grow
teach
up?
You
our
gotta teach
people.
'em.
We don't teach. This is a whole other topic. I'm sorry. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
I know. Well, spades and Uno.
Yes. Uno.
Like, come on, y'all don't. We don't be teaching our people that. Watch and learn. Watch and learn.
Uno for sure.
Child, Uno.
Uno. You better know what a draw for means.
What?
Look and stacking.
What? And switch it. Puh.
Exactly. Exactly.
No, it's I get all of that, and I think that, and by the way, that like Brown versus the Board of Education, that whole thing didn't just happen in the States. I mean, it happened in England. It's happened. It's happened everywhere. But I think that for me, spiritually, I feel that, first of all, I know this is kind of crazy. I want to bring it up. I believe in reincarnation. I also believe the black people. Let the black people say,
No. I'm with you with that.
Okay.
Okay.
I believe in reincarnation. I also believe that I am born into this black body, this black female body at this time for a reason. And for me, I am here for every lesson it has to teach me. I will accept every single lesson, just like I will accept every single lesson that happens to me in my life. In this lifetime, I am meant to be this person. So I move into the world. I will be an only in a job, and I have had a really hard time being the only in a job. And I will, looking back, those lessons helped me. So if I have to stand in front of a white person, I'm like, what is this teaching me? Because I know I'm going to need it later. I will accept it. And it's not just about being comfortable, because yes, I'm comfortable in my skin, and yes, I want to have that shorthand, but I also am accepting the role that I have to play in this body, in this lifetime.
I receive that. I think my only pushback to that for my own personal life is I have learned that lesson time and again from white folks. It is I still bear the bruises from those lessons I learned from white folks, spiritually and mentally. And I have been dehumanized by white folks. Not all white people. I've had an amazing white woman in my life. We're not friends because we don't talk all the time, but she has constantly reached out to me when I'm in the thick of it. She has extended a helping hand, presented opportunities to me, and I'm grateful to her for that. But she's not a safe space for me. She's not my friend. I like her a great deal, but she's not the person I'm calling at 2 a.m. to talk about something. I just don't. It's not something at this point in my life that I aspire to have, but I certainly know how to conduct myself when, I'm in mixed company. And a lot of people want me to come, add some spice to the dinner, and be at the table to feel more comfortable. But it's just not something that how I choose to spend my time these days, to be quite honest. I think it's harmful. Sometimes for me, for my spirit and my mental take. You're younger though, and I'm curious, do you think you'll change again? And are you open to because we're talking about diversity in terms of black and white. There's also other communities, and I think those are more nuanced differences. America has not been kind to any community of color. So I feel like when, we're talking about Latino, API, indigenous groups, I think, yes, will you at least have some understanding? You might aspire to align yourself with whiteness, but I see you and there is something in you that we have in common. I think outside of that, it's hard to explain what our experience in this country has been. Do you think you're open to changing your mind? Is there another set of circumstances where you say, you know what, I met somebody and I got to say,
with being friends with
the
white
coolest
people?
white person I ever met and is my best friend now.
Best friend?
Or a friend, somebody in your circle, somebody who you say, all right, you can come to the cookout, come on through.
I might say they cool. I met a cool white man the other day. I said, wow, I'd hang out with him.
Okay, so you're open.
Not my best friend.
But you're
But what
open.
happened? I mean, what transpired? What made you
That
say
was
that?
one. Well, first I gotta see more. That was the first. He passed the first threshold of hanging out. Well, we were doing a comedy open mic, so we were just talking about stuff and like, I don't know. I was talking about some of my experiences, how I got into comedy, or got into content creation as well, and how I got fired, because white supremacists, doxed me and called my stuff, and he was like, oh my God, what? Now I'm like, good answer. But like, are you that's what I was like, okay, all right,
You got
cool.
fired because of white supremacy?
White supremacists. Yeah, I posted a video online and they found where I worked and they called.
Really? What was the video?
Girl, sorry, it wasn't even that deep. This is what I said. You know how when you're on the street and white people kind of look at you like you're scary and you're just existing? I made a video that was like, sometimes I want to juke at him a little bit. Like, I want to like, just to make him scared for like reparations has happened, right? It was a joke, a little real. But so I posted that. It was for Black people, okay, for us to understand, right? And other people, like you're talking about other races and stuff to understand that. And PragerU found it, Ben Shapiro found it, Libs of TikTok found it. They posted it, thousands, tens of thousands. And the headline was teacher advocating for racial violence. So they found my resume and found where I worked, and they called and said, I can't believe a teacher who's, and I was like, come on, man. So I got fired. This was almost 2 years ago.
And you, I may have this wrong. My producers tell me you support segregation.
I made a video like, if I
2 days ago,
a little like 2 weeks ago, maybe a week ago, I was like thinking about my grandma who would be saying like desegregation was the worst thing to happen, for our community. And I grew up being like, Grandma, what are you talking about? No. But I was like, if I could segregate something again, maybe separate but equal, if it was actually equal, wouldn't have been that bad. And I came to that due to like in Black space, I guess like cookouts in Black spaces, Black culture, Black art, going to museums and just being in the presence of white people. And I was at the African American History Museum in DC.
The Blacksonian.
Hello.
Yeah.
Right? That's a long...
The National African American Museum
National
of History
Museum
and Culture.
of African American History and Culture.
Yes. And it goes deep, right?
Yeah.
I hear this white man next to me talking about, I don't want to read all that. And I'm like, you can't read a law about why we were 3/5. I visited the Maison des Esclaves in Senegal, that door of no return. And there's white French kids laughing, taking pictures behind the bars, and their parents are lying to them about how bad slavery is. And it's just like, I don't want to be here with you.
Yeah.
We need to have our own commemorative moments where it's just us, some type of time frame where I don't have to exist. I can process the trauma spiritually, not in your presence, because you're not.
Yeah. I think there is something to that. I've been, I affectionately call it the Blacksonian, but I've been there and it was white kids walking around with MAGA hats on. I felt incredibly offended. I felt uncomfortable. I thought somebody should say something to them, like take your hats off, at least take those hats off. Nobody did. I think because there's a lack of understanding that, and we're living at a time now, Carla, where they're trying to rewrite history. Like there's some shame to it. So it's like, let's take this away because that is the guilt of white culture and whiteness. And when I say white culture and whiteness, I don't mean individual people. I mean, but this country was founded on whiteness that manifested as violence to us. And so I think when there's a lack of understanding of that, it can be people become apathetic, at best they're apathetic. At worst, they are actively trying to say, if this is the thing they have on us, let's take this out of the schools. Let's take this out of history. Let's destroy their institutions. Let's remove, these DEI initiatives, let's get rid of all of it and come to a more equitable playing field. And I see these things happening and even the conversations around Black Lives Matter, and what happened in 2020. And you hear people say, well, I align with Black Lives Matter, so now you owe me this. And it's like, this is my problem with you. I can't trust you as an ally because you're being transactional. How the F word did you align with Black Lives Matter? By putting a poster in your window and wearing a t-shirt? Let me tell you something, my G, you didn't align with Black Lives Matter. It was a cute thing to say. It
was a box checker.
Exactly.
So I think, and I'm probably going to butcher this. There's a science of, and there's a woman who her name is Milagros Phillips, and she's done a lot of work around racial healing, blah 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 blah. And there's a science called axiology, which studies culture and people and all of that. And I've gone back to this thought frequently because it talks about Europeans and how it's a culture's relationship to whatever. Europeans is their relationship with the thing. So when you talk about transactional, it's their relationship with the thing. They had only 12 months to grow their food. So the 3 months to grow their food, it has to last for 12 months, right? So it's their relationship with the thing. People south of the equator, people of color, it's their relationship with each other. They could grow food all year round. You know, there was no lack there. It's all about relationships. And so that's like when the church said, amen, hey, amen, talk back to me. When you go to a stage, you're like, hello, you know, good morning. And nobody says like, I said good morning, you know, right?
Yeah.
And so then you have the indigenous peoples, their relationship with the universe, and Asians, their relationship with the group. And so this study was done, and you put all those people in an office, and no one is any more productive than another. It's just this is how they matriculate. Can we learn something with someone else's view and perspective of their thing? Yes. But we're always, it's like we can't separate our perspective. And so we judge people based on their perspective. And because in this country, 60% of the people are white, it is their perspective. Transactional, with a thing, box checkers.
Yeah.
Right? Now, as you're talking, Christina, I'm thinking that, you know, segregation, I do think that segregation affected our ability to want our own thing. So what a lot of Black people want is what white people have because they were told they couldn't have it. And by wanting what white people have, you're not focused on what you can do yourself. So that, in that respect, you know, segregation did a disservice to us because now we want to win, we want to beat, we want to play you, we want to play in your sandbox.
We were robbed of our imagination.
Right. You know?
Yeah. I think that's so profound what you just said. I think that is a key point. And I think, look, my goal in life was to live in service to Black folks. And to live in service to liberation of Black folks. And so when you think about that and what you just said, I think that is a challenge I would ask our listeners and audience at home, and for you ladies to carry with you. Who are we if not defined by white people? And that is it sounds easy to say, but when you start thinking about it, who would I be if not defined by white people? If I was not taught that I was less than, who would I be? If I was not taught European standards of beauty, who would I be? If we were never colonized, who would I be? I think those are deep questions and food for thought. I would offer our advice as I bring this conversation to a close that it is nothing wrong with having intellectual curiosity about your fellow countrymen. I think that is something we all should have.
Is that how you refer to white people? My fellow countrymen?
I'm saying your fellow countrymen is people you are in the country with. Definitionally.
I thought you were, okay.
But that includes white people.
It does.
But I feel like we've learned a lot from white folks already. We still bear the scars from it. But that includes everyone who lives in this country. There is curiosity there. I think to both your points, you've lived abroad, you've traveled all over. For your upcoming show, Chasing Flavors, you've gone all over to explore culture, and you learn things from people, for sure. I think that is something I challenge everybody to do, but also to protect your space when you need to. You know, and go in spaces where you feel at home and comfortable. And by all means, if you have a cookout and you invite Chef Carla, ask her what she's bringing, but more importantly, who she bringing. Who is she bringing to the cookout? Because that is key.
It's key
in rules for Black households.
I can bring you a good potato salad. I tell you that.
A good potato salad without the raisins. Exactly.
The raisins. Maybe we call it a dinner. I'll invite white people to a dinner, but a cookout.
Okay. Well, on that note, I think this is a really important conversation to have. And look, we're 3 Black women having this conversation. I invite all people, for, you know, white people who may tune in and listen to this, look at your friendship circle and ask yourself, what are you learning? What are you feeling? Why does your friendship circle look like this? And for all communities, you know, what are you learning from your intra circles in your social lives? Because not very long from now, there will be no racial majority in America. And what does that look like? What does the power structure look like? And how are we all getting along and living alongside and relating to each other? So,
oh my God, I have so much to say, and we're about to end.
I know.
Well, you know
my mind.
Let me not stop the party. Let me give y'all closing thoughts.
I'm like,
so, we'll go to you while Carla gathers her thoughts. Did you have closing thoughts?
My closing thoughts.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh wait, you start. You start.
No,
start,
the
please.
only thing that I'm thinking about, and it goes back to this whole friends thing. If we're saying, look, I want all of my friends, my inner circle, to be Black, but yet we are criticizing friends for not putting a Black person in that inner circle, it's double standards on both sides.
That is not.
It absolutely is a double standard, and I stand by.
Let me tell you why it's not double standard.
But not for the show. I know what you mean.
Friends. You're talking about white folks. It's not a double standard because we have done nothing but learn what white people are and who white people are. We've had no choice. Every single time we're the minority. Every single time we show up. How many times do white people show up and they're the only white person? How many spaces do white folks show up and they're the only white employee? How many times is a white person reporting exclusively to a Black person? How many times are white people being told, well, you need to make yourself more accessible and make people around you feel more comfortable? Go to the basketball game with people. Go to the cookout. Go learn how to play spades. The same way that we're saying go to the hockey game.
That's true. That's true.
So I just don't believe it's a double standard. It's like this entire country feeds us whiteness 24/7, from what we watch on TV to the way news is presented, to the way newspapers are presented, to the way we gather information, to the way we're entertained. We have to, how many times do we see all white movies? How many folks showed up to see Coming to America? How many people can quote a line from Boomerang? How many people can quote a line from The Best Man? Classic films. And we're even things that they say when they're quote a Seinfeld line. I watch Seinfeld. I love Seinfeld. I can quote a Seinfeld line. But if I turn back to you, that's fine. But if I turn back to you and I'm quoting something from Ice Cube's Friday,
right.
Then
that's
what? My American experience.
Or even the songs that you listen to as a child and you don't know rock songs. I don't know the rock songs, but I can tell you all the R&B songs. I tend to invite people that you would not invite to your cookout to my house to be an only white person. Only because
because reparations or
no, I do it because you need to be an only. You need to come into that. I mean, I do it as a social experiment. It is not people that would normally be hanging out with Black people. It is somebody who needs to have that experience of being a minority in a group.
But for them, that is like one Saturday out of their life.
But
for
they
us,
can't undo
that is
it
every day.
Yes.
But they can undo it. I think that's my point. They can undo it. They can go back to their safe space with a bunch of white folks and say, oh, let me tell you about what the Negroes are doing these days. And like for us, that's our everyday experience. We constantly have to be the only. So I don't equate those two things.
But I mean, you made your case. Y'all, I'm wrong. Okay.
I mean, but I do think I don't think it's anything wrong. Because look, this is my experience. I think if there are people who feel like, no, I have something more to gain by sitting in community with white folks, have at it. Enjoy yourself. Come back and report. I typically know all the things you're going to come back and report on, be like, told you so. We already knew that. But by all means, I'm not encouraging other people to segregate themselves. But I'm saying for me socially, that is where I find my joy, my happiness. Being here in conversation with you all. You're much younger and you have a different perspective, but that's our difference. It's not a cultural difference. And you and I have a commonality. There are things HBCU folks, there are things that we understand about each other. It's like when Kamala Harris was the pool report was following her, and she's an AKA, as you know, and they were saying there was so much screeching here, and we're like, what? Those are things that we're in community about that I think understand. So if we may bring us to a close.
No, but you didn't say your point.
I didn't my closing remarks. To the point of it being a double standard, even if it is, I'll say it is. If the worst thing you have to deal with is Black people potentially not trusting you as a friend, I don't know. I have nothing for you. I have nothing for you. You'll be all right. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you've got to pass a couple tests, and you still might not fully pass it, and that's okay. But I feel like, will I ever change my mind? Who knows? I might, I'm young. I might change my mind in 20, 30 years. The world might look different. The world might look different.
Yeah.
Right? And I don't know. I think I'm moving to the question of who are we without whiteness and white supremacy and white people? I'm finding, at least right now in my life, it really interesting to befriend and be in community with Black people because I'm learning so much more about the diaspora and actually
Yes.
how much diversity there is within Blackness.
Yes.
That I'm way more
Absolutely.
interested right now in learning about that. So
Yes.
and that being so vast and learning that by traveling and living abroad and being like, wait a minute, I'm learning so much about white people.
Yes.
Black people aren't even all, we really aren't a monolith. And I'm learning so much about our cultures across the diaspora and how we have similarities and differences that in my exploration of who are we without white people and whiteness, I realized, well, yeah, I want to learn that. I want to explore that. So
I think that's beautiful.
maybe white people will have a place in my life.
We'll see. You're young enough. You reserve the right to change your mind.
We'll see.
This has been quite an interesting episode of Across Generations. I want to hear from you guys though, so please drop a comment on our social media to hear, do you have friends who don't look like you? And please, I encourage you to have this conversation amongst yourselves and amongst your group chats and friendship circles and brunches and all the things that you do, because this is a conversation that I think will help carry us along and hopefully help for a better society and at least better understanding and how we feel and how we came to these conclusions. So thank you so much for joining us for this very important episode of Across Generations. And we look forward to inviting you back again very soon. Tune in next week to an all new episode. We'll see you then.